Hey, welcome to Anime Slushy. It's me, Feen.
And me, Cube.
And welcome to the Winter 2021 Anime Slushy Taster. Anime Season Taster. What the fuck is this called?
I don't know, but I'm glad to be doing them again. They're fun.
Yeah, they sort of got a bit shut down when COVID killed all the production, but I don't know, since then, this season's been pretty impressive so far.
There's definitely stuff to say things about.
I think I was the one who got to watch the most of the good shows this time.
Tell me about the good anime, Feeny.
I don't know, yeah, most of the stuff I watched I quite liked, or at least found very interesting.
Yeah.
With one exception.
Oh boy. Well, we both watched two things together, and then we both split off to watch the different things that the patrons voted for. Pew, 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 pew.
I was going to say, why don't we talk about everything we're going to talk about today?
Okay.
Why don't we just list off all the things we watched? So, together we watched X-Arm and Wonder Egg Priority, and then I went away and watched Horimiya, Otherside Picnic, Sk8 the Infinity, and Vlad Love. What else did you watch, Cube?
I watched Soukou Musume Senki. I watched Spider Anime. I'm not going to say the full name. The one about the spider isekai. I watched Kemono Jihen. I watched Cells at Work Black. And I think that's everything on my end.
Yeah. That's everything we agreed to watch.
Heck yeah.
I know what you want to talk about first.
X-Arm? The anime of the motherfucking season? Guys, you have to watch X-Arm. You don't understand if you haven't seen it. You have to fucking watch it. It's amazing!
It's like, I was thinking about, I don't even know what we're going to say about it. Because, like, you really just have to see it.
Yeah.
You can't really describe what it is you're seeing.
What I really want to impress upon people is, okay, so if you haven't heard of X-Arm at all, it's based on a kind of erotic Ghost in the Shell ripoff sci-fi manga. But Crunchyroll got the rights to adapt it into an anime, a 3D anime, and it's clear they wanted to do like a Ruby type action 3D thing. But they decided that what they didn't need was anyone who's ever worked on anime on the team. And the visuals, y'all know how we be about Ruby. Like, we think that Ruby looks bad, but we're here to tell you there's no comparison. Like, if you think we're just making fun of it looking bad, like in a Ruby way, no, this makes Ruby look so fucking beautiful. It looks like shit, and it's the best.
Like, what is it this company does? Because they don't do animation, do they? They just did 3D modeling.
Yeah, the animation is a company that has only done like some 3D modeling. Like, their biggest profile work was some of the environmental models in Sekiro. So they only do modeling, and they're like, you know what, animating can't be that hard. And the director was a live action animator, and he's like, I don't need animation experience. I'll understand 3D space better than the animators would. And everyone on the team's like, that's so good.
Yeah, he was a live action director who, in a very David Cagey sort of move, had this idea that because he had no experience in it, he was going to bring this whole new perspective to the animation. And instead, he's just like, no, you just don't know what you're doing, and you produce a thing that makes it clear you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, the idea that people who work in 2D animation wouldn't understand how to utilize 3D space is such horseshit.
To be honest, I feel like if in live action, you understand it less because that's just where you exist. You don't have to have a strong understanding of it, or as strong an understanding of it as you would in animation.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it is, like you've said, this is just based on some weird, horny Ghost in the Shell ripoff. And it's so funny that, like, even before how bad the animation looks and everything, that they picked this comic to make into a big series. It's such a, Cube was sending me, like, shots of it. It is such a nothing horny comic.
Oh yeah, it's softcore porn. Like, the things that happen in episode 3 of this anime are replacing the main android girl going to a brothel and like getting off and stuff. So that's what the comic is like. There's no sexuality in the anime though, or I mean there's some attempted.
Oh no. This is the funniest part about X-Arm to me, is that they picked a horny manga and they wanted to make a horny show. But it just looks so unbelievably trash. It is the least sexy thing you will ever see. It is impossible. It is utterly impossible to be, like, physically attracted to anything that's happening on the screen unless, like, you get off to, like, going to the store or something. Like that animation.
Yeah.
Unless that's your kink.
No, that's way too animated and loose for this. This is like if you've ever wanted to bone one of those little artist poser mannequins made of wood, then you might find this super sexy. Because like half the time the characters are in a default pose, not moving at all. Their faces only have like one jawbone to move up and down to make them speak. So they'll just be standing on screen like bah, 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 bah.
Oh yeah, they don't lip sync. They just mouth flap. That's all they do. They don't have different mouth shapes for different phenomes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And all the characters that are too minor to have a model are just drawn in 2D and like composited really shittily into the scene, and it's glorious.
So frequently you'll have a 3D character who's not moving because it's not mocap. They're just like stock still next to this like animated at 8 frames a second sort of weirdly drawn 2D person, and you just it's like we're just meant to ignore this.
The fucking Texan guy is the best, where they were panning over a shot of him, but he's like a cardboard cutout. He's in 2D and it's so good.
Okay, we should actually describe the plot such as
Should we?
I mean, yeah, kind of. It's like, it's your basic isekai setup, including the main character being killed by a truck, like, unironically.
Or he's put into a coma by a truck.
Okay, he's put into a coma. And then he wakes up 30 years later in the future, and he is now just a brain in, like, a suitcase, and he gets stolen by these 2 girls, one of whom you find out is an android, and the other one is just a girl who's from the cops.
She's my wife. I love her so much.
So, because he's just a brain, like, you know, you just see him naked a lot in his own headspace. But this also becomes important because, for various reasons, he has to, like, inhabit the body of the android girl a lot. And, like, if you want to understand how lazily horny this show is, in order to authorize that, because the girl is, like, the superior officer in this case, in order to get the authorization for the boy to go into the android girl's body, the android has to kiss the girl cop.
For some reason, every time.
In order to verify her DNA, because that's the only way to authorize things.
Sure.
They have to make out at least once an episode.
Yeah. And like in the manga, of course, it's like super, zoomed in hot lesbian kiss, show their tongues matching because you need that for the DNA. But in the anime, they can't animate it. So there's
It's great because early on there was some controversy because like when they go to kiss, the screen just sort of whites out. And people are like, is this show so homophobic that it can't show 2 women kissing? And the answer was no. They literally can't show 2 women kissing because they can't animate the mouths to make it look like a kiss.
This is cancel culture has finally gone too far, Phoenix. At the point where you can watch this episode and have any earnest critique of what's happening, as if like you could even judge it by those criteria. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a fucking like nothing makes any sense. It looks freaking hilarious at all times. It's so stupid. You can't. Oh, what if this one part's problematic? Who cares? It's so stupid and bad, and I love it.
Yeah. I don't know how you could look at it and be thinking about it in that sense. It is the most wretched looking thing I've ever seen. And there's nothing interesting going on. And you can also tell when there are meant to be like sort of like rapey sort of sexy bits. Like there's a bit in the first episode where the girl cop gets tied down to a table and like you can tell it's meant to be like, this is very...
Yeah, in the manga, she gets like completely stripped and you see her boobs and it's all like very erotica. But the anime brings it so much better.
Yeah, in the anime can't do that. So instead, she's just sort of strapped down there, still smiling because this character can only ever smile. They didn't rig another expression on her face.
And she has like a frog mouth like Tsuyu smile, and I love her.
Oh, it's so bad.
And yeah, she's just like, whoa, I'm trapped, whoa. And just like, no matter what's happening, she has that same blank stare frog mouth, and she brings me a lot of joy.
So yeah.
Watch it. You have to watch it. You gotta.
Yeah, you got to go look at it. Like it's one of those incredible disasters. Like it's not Ruby is still more fascinating for lots of reasons, but this is a show that did beat Ruby in terms of how bad can a 3D anime look. Like even season 1 Ruby looks better than this.
Oh yeah, and you don't have to have any like mixed feelings about this show. Like, oh, if only they executed this better. No, they were adapting trash and they made it hilarious, way more trash, and so you can just relax and have a good time.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about here. It was bad. It's nothing but bad. No stress.
I do feel a little bad for the mangaka, even though he's obviously a trash horny boy, but for the eye catches, they'll have an illustration by him. And it's like, what the fuck? Are those supposed to be the same characters? Because obviously he's a very talented illustrator, horny illustrator boy, and it's like, oh no. Imagine being that guy.
I mean, I guess, but also, like you say, he's a very horny boy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel that bad.
But I want to know, like, does he think this is hilarious? Or is he like, no, my precious baby property. How could they do this?
I hope he can see the humor in this. I hope he got a nice paycheck and he's off drawing more butts.
Yeah.
That's my hope for him.
His butts will always be there for him. All right, tell me about another fucking anime, Feen.
All right. I think I want to talk about potentially my favorite thing that I watched this season, which was Otherside Picnic.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
Yeah, you've probably heard good things from people in general, and I think it's pretty warranted. It's a pretty interesting little anime. The basic premise is that there is like a sort of parallel universe you can enter into through secret gateways. Like the one you see being used frequently in this one is an elevator you get into in like a little rundown office block. But if you go to different floors in a certain order, eventually you get to the other side.
Oh, that's very creepypasta. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's like all of the monsters and stuff are based around like internet rumors. That's how you find out about them.
Oh, shit.
It's very much like a creepypasta horror sort of anime. So it's about these two girls, Sarao and Toriko, who venture into the other side to hunt monsters and profit from it. And also just because it's kind of interesting and for research.
Where's the picnic come in?
There isn't really a picnic. Sarao, we spend most of our time with Sarao and sort of over her shoulder and in her head. We hear a voiceover from her a lot. She has I feel like very lived in depression and anxiety vibes that come off her really well. Normally, when you think about like anxious characters in anime, it's those sort of like, sort of, irritating girls. No, Sararo is like sometimes that you'll just catch her being deeply sort of like in a funk. But then also she gets anxious about things just because you hear her overthinking everything. Like it works a lot better.
Oh, I assume that's the short hair glasses one.
yeah. She's still drawn like a depressed person.
Yeah.
And then there's Toriko, who is this big blonde bucket of energy. Like the first episode starts with Sarao already found her way to the other side somehow, and she's just sort of lying in a puddle thinking about how she's going to die, and no one would even notice except for maybe like the school administrators at a university who would notice when they stop getting checks from her.
Oh no.
But then Toriko shows up and they end up fighting off a monster together. It's called the Wibble Wobble. It's this big sort of translucent kind of snake thing with an eye, and the idea behind it is that you can't look it in the eye for too long or you go mad. That's sort of the rumor. But while Sararo's staring at it, Toriko throws rock salt at it, and it seems to blow it up. And as a reward, they get a little this odd sort of mirrored cube that is like it's mirrored on all sides, but you can see everything around you, but you can't see yourself.
Okay.
Like it just mirrors the environment. And so they take that back because they're able to sell it. Or Toriko knows someone she can sell it to who will can give them some cash.
Mm.
One thing that happens relatively quickly is from another encounter they have in the first episode, Sarao gets a damaged eye and Toriko gets a damaged hand, and her hand sort of turns see-through, so she has to start wearing a glove all the time. And that actually allows them to start perceiving and fighting the monsters on the other side a little easier. So they get this sort of like paired power, where Sararo is able to sort of like get some insight in the monsters and Toriko is actually able to physically touch them. And I don't know, man, it's got a lot of cool, genuine horror stuff in it. Like it's kind of scary in places.
Yeah, that is not what I expected. I heard, like, it's like a gay isekai called Otherside Picnic. This isn't what I was expecting it to be like.
And it is, like, don't get me wrong, it's very gay. Like,
yeah, it's actually a Yuri, right?
I don't know. Sararo definitely talks about how pretty Toriko is and gets flustered by her. And like episode 2 opens with Toriko doing like a carbidon.
Oh, yeah.
Against Sararo. Although it's only so she can take a photo of her eye because it's turned blue and it's very pretty. There's also a really good genuine sense of the fact that these guys, whenever they're in the other side, are way over their heads. Like they don't have, they're not big, powerful isekai characters who can handle anything. They're like, they're always getting by the skin of their teeth. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And the dynamic between the two of them is good. Toriko's got a whole thing where the reason she's there is because she was introduced to the place by someone else who apparently got too obsessed with the place and disappeared at some point. She's sort of looking for this friend of hers. And it's good. It's good. It's cute. It's kind of creepy. It's very creative. And it's just like, I can't emphasize enough that Sararo in the first few episodes, just that sort of
big depression feels.
The depression feels are amazing. Because like she went there to be alone, right?
Yeah.
Like potentially sort of commit like a very gentle sort of suicide. So in the second episode, she's going around with Toriko, but she sort of almost is starting to resent her because she wanted to be alone and doesn't like having this other person around. by the end of the episode, she's sort of forced to confront that a bit. And it's, I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much, but because you should definitely watch it.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's definitely worth checking out.
Dang. So I was looking this up and I was like, Studio Leiden Films or Leiden Films. That sounds familiar. And you know what else they did? Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka. I'm so proud of them.
That's interesting. Look, you got to pay the bills.
No, yeah, they also did Cells at Work Code Black, which actually makes more sense, I guess, some more so.
Yeah, they're more sort of in the same genre. Maybe that's depressing. Maybe that means this show's going to turn at some point, but...
Nah. I mean, it's an adaptation of like a manga and a light novel, so I think people would know if it became trash.
Yeah, well, you'd hope so. But you can never trust anime fans with this stuff.
True.
They don't always tell you. One thing I will say is that, like, I watched it thinking, like, you know, it looked quite good most of the time, and then other people pointing out how, like, a lot of the distance shots are done in 3D, and, like, it just turns out I'm just no good at spotting 3D. There's some super 3D monsters in episode 3, but before that, I just hadn't noticed.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that means they're good at using them only when they need to or whatnot.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so what else did you watch?
Well, I guess we might as well talk about Cells at Work Code Black or Hataraku Saibo Black. So here's the thing. I have never watched Cells at Work regular. You have, right?
Tiny bit. Not much.
Oh, okay. So I know that it's supposed to be like, it's like a wholesome, fun, semi-educational, they're gajinkas of cells in your body, and it's fun.
Yeah.
So then the same mangaka made Cells at Work Black. That's like the fucking edgy, gritty, sexy one. And everybody hates it, but I'm here to say I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, you were talking to me about this before. You think it's like it's self-aware enough about what it is?
Yeah, like I don't know if the anime is better at framing the tone that it's going for or something, but at least from the anime, it's very clear that it's a joke how serious and gritty things are. Like it opens up and we have our, nice glasses, red cell boy, and he's so excited to do his new job, gonna do his best, everything's gonna be great. And then he finds out that the body's gone to shit and everybody's fucked up and everybody's just rushing and desperately trying to keep this shit body alive. And it's like very dramatic. And then like when the person smokes or drinks, it's like, oh God, this stuff is happening to the red blood cells. Oh God. Everything's suffering, and it's funny. I don't know. It's just really funny, and like then the narrator will come in and explain what like this is a metaphor for. It's like, this cell, this peptin does this, blah 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 blah, and then the characters are like, oh God. And so besides him, the other really major character is a big titty white cell lady who I think is pretty cool. I mean, I would prefer if her shirt was closed, but she's still pretty hot and cool, and I would be her friend and she would protect me. She got a katana and she's cool.
Are all the white blood cells big titty out?
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing some of them in the OP. Yeah. That's kind of funny.
It's funny, though, eventually they have like a big army of them when they have to fight STDs. And there, like, some of them had their shirts closed finally. And I was like, why are these ones allowed to close their shirt? I thought this was mandatory dress code. And that's the only episode that I didn't really like is with the STDs, because then it does get kind of like too hentai-y. But I have a feeling that the anime probably toned it down a bit from the manga, because there's just like a few minutes of like, this is too porny. But the episode before that, everybody told me I was going to hate it in the Discord because it's all about getting a boner and stuff. But it's the best. It's so funny because it's like treated entirely seriously and it's all mechanical. And they're like, all of us red blood cells, we got to rush in there. We got to push it opens and we got to do it and we got to make it happen so that we can. And the sperm are like these little babies in a daycare who then become these kids that in this ridiculous looking sperm boat things, and they're just like, we're gonna make it, we have to make it to like keep life going, and that's what we're all living for. And they work so hard, and there's so much like dramatic uplifting anime music playing, and they finally do it. They ejaculate. It's beautiful.
Isn't part of it that also that the guy's having trouble getting an erection?
Yeah. There's very dramatic where they find out that ED is preventing them from being able to do it, but then you know what? The dramatic cavalry comes in, it's Viagra. And it's just funny.
What's the bit at the end as well?
Yeah, so you see like the little sperm kids like get out, and you see them like basically like going into like this space zone. It's like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna meet those ova. We're gonna create new life. It's beautiful. And then one of the people tells our red blood cell boy, is like, well, I mean, maybe. I mean, a lot of times humans, they have sexual intercourse or whatever, not even trying to make babies. And he's like, no, what did we even go through all that for? No. He might have just been jacking it. And it's just funny.
It kind of seems funny, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
I could see it not being funny, but the idea that it's being done in such a serious tone, that seems funny.
And it helps that like in that episode, they don't really use much like sexual imagery. It's all like the penis is like this giant metal mechanical looking thing, so it's good in terms of like this. It's not grossing you out, making you look at like penis stuff. It's just obviously all a metaphor, and they're talking about it very seriously, and it's funny. I like it.
So are you going to keep watching it then?
I think so, because I watched through episode 5, which was the one I didn't like as much. Or wait, or was that episode 4? I forget. But apparently one of the episodes that just got released is about energy drinks and how they're fucking up his body and hurting his heart because he just can't stop drinking energy drinks. And I'm like, I gotta watch that. Oh, and the opening and ending are by Poly6, which is a band I really like. And I was like, what? They're doing anime openings for this stupid anime. Oh wait, I like this anime. Yay, Poly6.
I will say the OP is way more cheerful than the rest of the show, it seems like.
Yeah, both the OP and ED are very cheerful, and then the show is, oh, how can we, no, oh. Tachimiko. But yeah, I don't know how long it will stay good, because everybody was complaining about the manga because it's just like too sexual and dark and depressing or something. So I don't know if like the anime makes it very much more clear how it's just supposed to be funny and kind of like a giant shit post or what. I mean, obviously, like, if you were used to the regular cells at work that isn't weird about women at all or whatnot, I can see being like, ugh, this fucking big titty sexualized lady and stuff. This is all annoying. But since I don't have as much familiarity with the franchise, I'm just like, bang.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's part of it. Is it like expectations based off of the original cells at work, which is a lot lighter, from my understanding, is sort of throwing people in this one.
Yeah, but I think he knows they know exactly what they're doing. They're having fun making a silly trash thing about having a shit body. And it actually made me like, the last 2 episodes I watched, I had to get on the bike and bike while watching them. Because I was like, oh, my poor cells, I got to treat them a bit better.
I wonder if the energy drink episode is going to make you stop drinking energy drinks.
Nothing will ever make me stop. I've got one right here. Refreshing. Thanks, Monster.
Can't believe you drink Monster.
No, I'm actually drinking Rain right now. It's cheaper, so
Oh, okay.
It gives me my gamer fuel that I need to win at the video games. So what's another thing you watched?
I watched Horimiya, which is quite good, I found.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's a little slice of life anime. Little slice of life high school anime. To say it's tropey, that sounds like a bad thing, but it's one of those ones where it does the tropes really well and it moves very quickly.
Yeah, you told me that you were surprised at how much it seemed like it was kind of skipping over what you would normally expect.
Yeah, it's sort of, the basic model is 2 unlikely friends. The main 2 characters, Hori and Miyamura, everyone at school thinks of them a certain way. Hori's this pretty girl who's quite popular, but no one ever sees her outside. No one ever really sees her outside of school. And it turns out that's because her mum is an office worker working real hard, salaryman type job. So she has to do like all the cooking, all the cleaning, laundry, looking after her little brother who's like much younger than her.
Aw.
So she's sort of got this home life where she's basically a housewife. Miyamura is this kid that everyone thinks is just some sort of otaku who's very gloomy, has long black hair, doesn't really talk to anyone. It's funny. The other characters, Hori and her friends are discussing how they just kind of assume he's an otaku. Hori's subtitle was, oh, like he's into like the moe stuff, but like all the actor says is moe, and the other one goes, yeah. I just kind of thought it was funny.
One of them's.
Yeah. But it turns out, I guess Hori's little brother was playing outside and hurt himself, and this guy who's got like 9 piercings on his face, including a chain running from his lip to his ear, and like a really sort of fashionable top knot done up, brings him back and is like, I found him outside. He hurt himself, so I walked him home. And Hori's like, oh, thanks so much. And then this guy uses Hori's name. And she's like, how do you know me? And he's like, it's Miyamura from your class.
Oh, he's secret punk?
This is the thing. As much as the show sort of pushes the idea that they have these alternate identities, Miyamura has tats and piercings and shit, but it's like he's still just a very gentle, awkward sort of dude. He's kind of just a geek. Like, he's not into moe stuff. Like, they make a point of saying that later on. He's like, I do read manga, but I'm not into moe stuff. Ugh. Like,
I'm not one of them.
Yeah. But like, other than that, he's just a gentle, quiet, awkward dude. And Hori is like, it's just that she has responsibilities at home. But they both have this side to themselves that most of the people don't see, so they ended up hanging out. Hori's little brother really likes Miyamura, so he keeps coming over to sort of like hang out with him. And they just develop a friendship. It's pretty clear at some point they're going to start dating. Like, like there's a love confession in like episode 3. Because this is the other thing about this show. It's not like revolutionary by any means. This is all pretty standard stuff. But it almost feels like that they know that, because where most adaptations tend to do, like, it feels like, one chapter of a manga per half. So like, they'll do a chapter of the manga, then there'll be an eye catch, then another chapter.
Yeah.
This thing, the first episode of this felt like it squeezed like 5 separate vignettes into it. And each episode after that is like 3 to 4. It moves really, really fast through these little little vignettes of things that happen day to day. But it's actually like, that's fine.
Yeah, and even if they get together earlier, that would be very unusual, because usually with these things, it's, they're going to take the whole fucking anime and then not even get together at the end. Or maybe get together right at the end.
They'll tease it out forever, which is actually, that's another one. There was another anime I quite liked. I think it was Watako.
Oh, Wotakoi, right?
Wotakoi, yeah. Because like the main couple get together in the first episode.
Oh, good.
Kind of, and it's sort of, so you just get to see the relationship, and it's like, I'm always way more interested in that.
Well, yeah, that actually makes me want to watch it more than I did.
Yeah, the anime is good. The manga just sort of peters out because it's like what happens in a lot of slice of life where there isn't really a plot, so you just sort of keep doing stuff until you run out of things you can think to make them do.
Right.
I mean, this might happen with Horimiya as well, but for the moment, it's just sort of, all the vignettes are cute, the characters are fun, Hori's other friends are pretty good. There's a few sort of odd reflections on like male bonding between Miyamura and Ishikawa, who's Hori's other male friend who was in love with Hori at first, but that sort of gets resolved pretty quick. And it's like, it's nice. It's a nice time.
Nice. So yeah, it sounds like if you're into general, like fun romantic comedy anime, then it might be something that you should check out.
Yeah. Like I say, nothing revolutionary, but it does it pretty well.
Yeah.
It won't waste your time. It moves so quick.
Right. Well, cool. I appreciate not having my time wasted.
It's one of those things where it's like, in a more serious show with deeper characters, you would expect there to be more time sort of working out why Miyamura and Hori end up being friends. But because this thing is what it is, it's like, look, you get what we're doing. It's fine. Just they're friends.
Yeah.
Of course they're friends. Of course they get on.
Look, they're different. They like each other. Okay.
Yeah. So what else do you watch?
Excellent. So I also watched Kumo desu ka nani ka, or I think it's usually translated as I'm a spider, so what? Or something. But it's spider sekai. It's reincarnated as a spider. It's an isekai, and the thing is that she was reincarnated as a spider. And
when you say as a spider, is this just a regular house spider, or is this like a fantasy setting?
Yeah, like a fantasy setting spider. Yeah, it's like a generic video game setting, and so she looks like a kind of low tier mob. And to me, that's like the only interesting thing this kind of has going for it, is that she's this mob monster, so she's trying to figure out how to level up and survive in this world while having to do things like. One of the first things she does is, she's trying to find food to eat, and all of her kin are eating each other because they're spiders. And so she has to finally eat one of her brothers. And then she's like, oh, God. But then she gets the kin eater special trait, and that gives her hex magic. And she's like, I don't know how to do magic. Okay, then. And so that aspect is funny for a while. Like, I kind of like the idea of, it's kind of the opposite of being reincarnated and instantly being super powerful. It's just like you're a regular trash mob. But then, so that kind of goes on, and there's a whole episode that's just her fighting a bunch of monkeys. So she's in 3D a lot of the time, but I think it looks really good and is well handled. But then all the other monsters that she fights and tries to eat and stuff they don't look like they're rendered in the same way as her, and they look kind of shitty.
Oh, that's a shame.
So she fights a bunch of 3D monkeys, but they look kind of bad.
I feel like we haven't had an isekai that's like, or at least a more recent one that felt like it had a lot of money put into it. They're always so cheap.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, so apparently the manga and light novel weren't like this, but half the show it's split in half between her being silly, being kind of charming, making her web home and stuff. And then the other half of the show is the rest of her class who also reincarnated in this world, being normal fantasy isekai people and going to fantasy school and having their own drama.
What?
And apparently they aren't going to meet up at all within this season, at least. Because apparently in the other versions of the story, she like eventually way later reunites with her classmates and she's like, what, you were all reincarnated here too? What the fuck? But I guess the anime decided to show us all that, but that means that we spend entire episodes just watching a generic isekai.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like you've taken the one charming thing that show had going for it and replaced it with the normal boring thing.
It's so freaking weird. Like when I found out that none of this was something that was covered in the light novel and whatnot, I was like, what the fuck did they do this? And they're all 2D animated and stuff, so you would assume that's more expensive than drawing this fucking spider girl running around having shenanigans.
It's almost like they were afraid people... This was too wild for isekai fans. Doing something this outrageous. Don't worry. We're also going to do the same boring thing that every other show is doing.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Shh, 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 shh. Don't worry. Look, he's a very special boy. He's a very special, nice boy. He's going to the magic school. Shh, shh. It's okay. And it sucks because at first I found it kind of interesting because, like, you know, it cuts away from Spider, her having silly shenanigans, and then shows all these people at this, like, big gala. And you slowly start to realize that all the people who are reincarnated students from her school are kind of meeting up together. It's like, oh, here, I want to introduce you to these two. Okay, what's your actual name? And, you know, be like, oh, it's me, Shimetsu or whatever. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And you find out that one of the reincarnated people was a girl that bullied our main character back when they were in regular world. So I'm like, okay, so maybe they'll have like some kind of interesting tension, or, oh, is the spider girl going to join like what's the villains of this world? And then it's going to be a whole thing because like she was treated badly in real life. But apparently they don't meet up for a long time. And it's just you can watch her make webs and then you can watch them have a generic ass fantasy, and it's weird as fuck.
It's very strange. Like, and when you say like generic ass fantasy, is there like anything interesting happening in that side of it at all?
It's weird because, so, you know, they're all going to magic school and some of them are reincarnated into like prince guys, bods. And so there's like the main boy, the nice boy, and there's another boy who's like the rival boy who's all angry and is going to get them all killed and stuff. And I was like, I don't buy this from like an actual guy that was supposed to be a real high schooler, you know? He's like, oh, I'm gonna use my sword and I'm gonna be the strongest sword guy and I'm very serious about this. It's like, you were just a dude. You're just a regular dude. Why are you so weird? And then the girl that bullied her got reincarnated as like a cute little like dragon mascot character that rides around on the main boy's shoulder. And then at one point they get attacked by this giant earth dragon and she helps kill it by biting it. But then she gets the kin eater thing. It was a dragon dad of hers maybe. And for some reason that's treated really fucking seriously. Like, even though, you know, like we saw Spider Girl eating her brothers and it was just like, haha, funny, blah, blah, blah. But then she gets the kin eater thing and it's like, dun, dun, dun. And the main character's like throwing up and there's like, oh God, oh fuck. And it's like, what? You were a human high schooler person. Why are you fucking freaked out about your weird dragon kin? This is stupid. It's stupid.
It really is like two different shows. That's so weird.
And it's like the main, when it's Spider Girl time, there's a bunch of like video game pop-ups and stuff, you know, like she keeps seeing new skills that she's getting and she's always hearing the narrator saying that stuff. So it's obvious that part's very silly. And I'm kind of down in general for just like watching a spider girl make her way through, you know, trying to evolve and become a strong spider thing that can survive. But you show me the other shit. And I'm like, fucking, why are you showing me this shit?
Yeah. Very odd.
Yeah, so I don't know. Apparently, like the light novel and manga get much more serious later, and I guess maybe the anime is going to skip to some of that, and it's like some weird like genocide battle, and in the opening there's all these monster people that we haven't met yet, and it's very dramatic. And after 4 episodes, I'm pretty much done.
It's very webcomic sort of style, isn't it? Where you start with a very silly premise, and all the stuff that's happening is really silly and humorous. And then like a while in, all of a sudden you've made everything get really serious.
It's Cerberus syndrome because it's like, how is this? Jeez, goofy.
Yeah.
So yeah, would not recommend.
Okay. Speaking of goofy, I watched Sk8 the Infinity.
Oh yeah, tell me about these skate boys.
Okay, so this is I don't know if it's just because it's skateboarding, but the whole thing had a very pleasant 90s energy, and I thought it was just me at first. But then, like, whenever they do flashbacks, it's like you're watching it on a VHS tape.
Ooh.
Like, they do, like, rewinding and there's the static and stuff. So I think it is, like, it's not set in the 90s, but it definitely is sort of pulling a bit of that aesthetic into it. So there's our main skating boy called Reki, who looks a little too much like a Digimon protagonist.
Oh, this guy with a big bandana.
Yeah, big bandana, spiky red hair, bright yellow hoodie. Like that's a bit Digimon. It's about him and a transfer student called Langa, his dad was Canadian, his mother is Japanese. Dad died, so he's moved back with his mum to her hometown of Okinawa. So it's all set in Okinawa. Now, this show is also about a super secret skateboarding race called S for skating that's set in an abandoned mine that ends in a factory.
I'm looking at this key image. I'm seeing a cat person.
Not actually a cat person, just a person who has a tail that does act prehensile, but that's just a dude who wears cat ears sometimes. No, they're not actually a cat person.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the basic premise is there's this whole subculture in the town in Okinawa surrounded about skating, and it all surrounds this super secret race that takes place every night.
Oh, this reminds me a lot of Air Gear. I don't know if you know what that is.
Not really.
it was a whole like manga and anime about people with superpowered roller skates, and they weren't good, but like there was something really fun about like, wow, I wish I had superpower roller skates.
There's no superpowers in this, as far as I know, at least so far. It's very extra. It's got a really big personality of a show. Like all of the other big famous skaters are they're all like pro wrestling personalities. The first one you see in a race is a guy called Shadow, who like has a big mohawk and face paints and like leathers, and he laughs a lot and throws fireworks at people to distract them. There's also there's two rivals called Cherry Blossom and Joe. Cherry Blossom's this extremely bishy, beautiful man who dresses kind of like a samurai, and Joe is just a huge, buff, ripped dude who's always got his shirt off, and like they have their own fan clubs and stuff. The cat boy is Mia, who's a young skater but a prodigy who's might make the Japanese Olympics team. But the most special boy is Langa, because in the first episode he's just moved to the town. Reki sort of takes him under his wing because Langa does seem kind of vaguely interested in skating. And then in the first episode he ends up, due to bizarre circumstances, in a race against Shadow and beats him because he might be a secret genius at skateboarding, because back in Canada he was a snowboarder. He'd been snowboarding since he was like 2. So he's here to like bring his snowboarding skills to skateboarding, and is going to fucking turn it all around and blow it up.
He's like that live action guy that wanted to direct X-Arm.
Well, so this is the thing. In the first episode, he seems halfway, like he can't stand up properly on a skateboard. So the thing he does is he duct tapes his feet to the thing, because like normally on a snowboard it's attached to your feet. And so he wins that race, but then like after that, when he's trying to learn how to skate properly, it's a lot of him falling down, which, to be fair, is kind of authentic to skaters. As far as I know, there's a lot of bailing and eating shit.
Yeah, that's why I could never learn to skateboard. Is I'd be way too scared about fall off.
You have to fall off a lot. You have to get injured a lot. It's just part of what skating is. So the show I actually found myself kind of digging this. The character's good. It's pretty good at jokes. Like, one of the fun things about it is because this is like a secret world, or you see all of the big famous skaters in their in their everyday personalities. So like, for example, Shadow owns a florist, and he's like, day to day, he's a very friendly large man who has a big pink car and stuff.
Yeah, he looks like he's supposed to like be leading into that kind of camp aesthetic.
Yeah, but they're all camp. Like, that's the thing. Like, because Cherry Blossom is like a master calligrapher, and Joe is a famous chef. So they've all got these big sort of jobs. And there's also this mysterious legendary skater called Adam, who is incredibly fucking extra. Like, he dresses like a demon. His skateboard has horns. But day to day, he seems to be like a local politician or something. Like, he might be mayor of the town.
That's cute. And I see it's animated by Studio Bone, so I assume it looks pretty good.
It looks great, yeah. It does look really nice.
Nice.
And yeah, pretty good at landing jokes. Like, in the second episode, it's about Langer trying to learn to skate. And so they gets to this bit where they're running from someone and just heading towards a wall and realizes he hasn't been taught how to turn. But then like he gets the serious face and it goes into sort of the mode that he was in on the night when he beat Shadow, and then he just hits the wall. So like it sort of plays with that sort of stuff. It's fun, yeah. My main knock against it would be it's a complete sausage fest. Apart from Langer and Reki's mothers, who you see a bit, there are no women at all. The only women you see on screen are the women who fawn over the big skaters. And at one point, what happens with the S races is that someone explains that you always bet something, which can include girlfriends. So you can win the other person's girlfriend, that kind of shit. So it's sort of...
How medieval.
That's a bit sort of... Meh.
Though just looking at them, it also looks like I wouldn't be surprised if this anime was going for the female audience a bit. With, like, look at all these hot boys and they're so cool with their friendship. I
was wondering that, but then when I was Googling Sk8 for like research, one of the top Google questions was, is Sk8 the Infinity a BL? And I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the other audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be nice. The Mia character I thought was a girl at first, but no, they're just a very pretty young boy. So
yeah.
No girls.
Oh, wait, that's actually a good transition.
But yes, it's worth checking. If you don't mind skating, if you don't mind the sausagey nature, it's kind of fun.
I hate skating.
But yes, what else did you watch?
Okay, so Kemono Jihen is another anime that I only got through 2 episodes of because it's very much here's a shonen action show about a bunch of teens. They've all got different powers. Maybe you've heard of this before. But though it's weird because the way that it starts is this yellow suit man is driving into this town that for some reason seems to look like and live like ancient Japan. But then you find out later that they're in perfectly normal modern Japan. But the main character is this boy with, I think he looks a lot like the boy from Demon Slayer. Or I mean, you wouldn't mistake them for each other, but he's got the red eyes with the white in the middle, and he's got the black kind of spiky hair, and he's a demon action shonen protagonist. And I'm like, I feel like this is going for the same market.
Yeah, sounds like it's leaning in a bit.
Yeah, but so for some reason his life is he lives like he's in ancient Japan and he's never had pizza and stuff, and I don't know why I didn't understand that. Yeah, like is it like incredibly rural or something? What's the It's super rural, but I mean it's you haven't had pizza? Like Japan is such a small country that even, like I lived in a super rural town. I was still an hour away from a giant city and we had everything there.
Of course, yeah.
So I was like, what the fuck is happening here? But so the kid has a thing around his neck, and when he takes it off, he starts to go kind of demon, and he's just so dangerous and powerful, you see.
Oh, I see.
And so there's a bunch of animals that are getting eaten, and they think that he's doing it, but he wasn't the one doing it. It was other monsters. So man and him team up. They kill the monsters, and the man's like, you want to come with me and come to my house where a bunch of super teens live, and then you can fight monsters with a bunch of super teens with different powers. And the main character's like, okay.
That's pretty funny.
And so like I think they're pretty much all half, like one of their parents is a demon and one of their parents is a human. So they're all like half human, have some kind of superpowers thing. So you've got like the secondary boy who looks exactly like Bakugo from My Hero Academia. And he's like the spider one. He's got spider silk. And the third kid, which I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a unique design for a girl. She's got like suspenders, and that's a reasonably standout design. But it turns out it's a boy who just looks and acts like a girl all the time, and this definitely isn't for fetish reasons, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, it's just kind of a knockoff Demon Slayer kind of thing.
It feels that way. So yeah, but it's in a more modern Japan, but it's just they have different powers and they're gonna go fight demons, and the main character, he has trouble relating to other people because he had a shitty childhood and he's half ghoul or whatever, but he's very powerful and you just gotta blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I get it, bye.
Okay, yeah, not worth it.
Nah, though there was a girl who looked like she was some kind of like kitsune girl, and I really liked the way her design looked, but I bet she gets all sexualized, and I bet it sucks, and I bet it all sucks because it's anime.
Oh, you didn't have as good of a time of it this time, did you?
Yeah, it sure is a shonen anime.
I forgot to ask, how's the OP or the ED? Any good?
For this one,
Yeah.
seemed kind of generic.
Okay.
Oh, the ED for the spider one was a lot of fun, and it's her singing and being like a little spider idol, and it's very upbeat and fun. And the opening is actually like very dramatic butt rock anime serious stuff, which was why I was like, when are we getting to that part? Well, I'm too bored and I'm not going to stay until we get to that part. But so those are both solid.
I was going to say, I forgot to mention that Sk8 has a very good OP. I thought the song was very catchy and it's nicely animated.
Ooh, even you think so?
Yeah. It also had really good eye catches. Like one of the eye catches was in the episode where you see who Shadow is normally. It's like being, the friendly florist. They have these little eye catches that are animated in a different style. And it's him doing the Sailor Moon henshin to become Shadow. Like with the pink ribbons and the poses and everything. I don't know. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of cute.
Oh, we should also mention X-Arm. The opening is great because it's all like, hello, hello, ba, ba, da, da, da. And it's like completely inappropriate for the what they're going for with that show. And it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Everything about X-Arm is amazing.
It's the best. It's the best show.
Now, the bad one I watched, the really bad one that I watched, Vlad Love. I only saw one episode because that's really all I needed. It's about this girl who is a blood donation enthusiast. That's how she describes herself.
Like it's her fetish to donate blood?
Yeah, that's her fetish.
Cool.
Unfortunately, like she has chimera blood, which is like, I forgot to look up if this was a real thing or not, but basically,
yeah,
your blood is a combination of two different types.
Chimera blood type. Yeah, that's real.
So her blood is useless for donating. You can't give someone a transfusion of her blood. So that's a shame. She can't donate blood. Like you see her going into a blood donation truck all enthusiastic and then going, ugh, it's you again, go away. But while she's still there, this pale girl with long blonde hair steps in and says, blood, I need blood, please. And they're going, oh yeah, we'll take your blood. And then she just starts smashing the shit out of the truck and like stealing all the blood. And then before the truck explodes, the blood donation girl grabs her and takes her home. And she's like, I don't know why I took her home, but she's pretty. And then it turns out the girl's a vampire, but she's a good vampire in that she's too gentle to take blood from humans, because if she takes blood from a human, it turns them into a vampire. And what if they're a bad person? She'll be putting another horrible vampire out into the world. So she can't do that. She had to run away from home because her family in Transylvania had stopped giving her blood. And somehow she ended up in Japan. And so...
Sounds like a lot of whatever.
Well, I thought that's what it would be like at first. Like the blood donation enthusiast just happens to have a bag of her own blood she drew in the fridge that she gives to the vampire.
What the fuck?
And then she's like, you can stay here for as long as you want. Maybe you'd like a shower. And so the vampire girl stands up and takes all the clothes off in front of her. And, so it's a very horny bullshit show, this one.
Yeah.
Like the vampire girl goes to sleep in the closet and then the main girl is like spying on her as she sleeps and talking about how she's got her own vampire now and says this is just like an anime, which is really the hallmark of every bad anime comedy.
Yeah.
When they point out how it's like an anime. And just when I thought that like, okay, this show sucks and it's horny and shit, the half of the episode is the blood donation girl going to her school nurse in order to get her to take some of her blood. And we meet the school nurse. Here, Cube, here, look at the school nurse.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, that's a believable design for a school nurse. I completely buy that.
She's wearing a long latex dress that is like unzipped from her boobs all the way down to just below her navel.
Yeah, absolute cleavage, scientifically speaking.
Yeah.
Anime is cancel.
She's extremely step on you. She beats this kid up all the time. But then she's also really into unique blood types. That's her hobby. So she helps the main girl set up a blood donation club so they can get enough blood for the vampire girl, and that's the first episode.
Imagine deciding to make an entire show about a girl who refuses to not donate blood and is just obsessed with donating blood as like a fetish thing. Imagine making that show.
But I mean, it's just her whole thing is like utterly like obviously it's a ridiculous contrivance, but it's because there's going to be a vampire, so you have to have a character who's enthusiastic about donating blood, and it is a fetish, so that they can do a lot of stupid fetishy shit. That's the whole point of this thing. By the way, the nurse gets naked at one point for no reason.
Sounds about right.
The weirdest thing about this is that the OP was really good. Like, the OP gives you the impression it's going to be like a full-on gothic sort of horror type show because it's the vampire girl in like a vampire band singing this song. It's almost a bit like Queenish. It's got this big sort of like metal operatic thing going. And it's kind of fucking cool. And then the show itself is garbage, but the OP is like worth a watch.
The Asuka effect.
Yeah. The other thing is the show has actually quite pretty backgrounds.
Yeah, I was looking at this and I was wondering if that's like the style the backgrounds are always in.
Yeah, they are. Even the establishing shots are a little sort of abstract like that too. Like whenever we go to the main girl's home, it's like you see the home, but it's sort of like the edges of the picture sort of just trail off into white and stuff. And it's really, I don't know who's doing backgrounds on this, but find a better anime, please.
Yeah, at least someone got to express themselves artistically.
Yeah. It's just a shame because everything that's happening in the frame is bad. So you just have to like submit just the backgrounds on their own if you wanted to get work.
I realized I didn't think these were images of the correct thing, but I guess they are because they looked very dramatic and stuff. And I was like, clearly this can't be it, but I guess it is.
Let's have a look. Yeah, no, that's the show. It's weird. The show itself is pretty basic looking, but all of the like OP stuff and the eye catches and things are like quite nice. It also does this, what I assume is a very cheap thing to do, where it'll like a scene will start in a wide shot, and then rather than cutting around, they just sort of cover the screen in like boxes that have like the other character's face on them. Like it sort of does little cut-in frames.
I wonder if they're trying to go for a Hanako thing. Because, Hanako is all about like those really nice stylistic backgrounds and then doing those kind of cut-ins that kind of mimic manga frames.
Yeah, maybe. It's a shame. Like this ain't no Hanako.
Yeah.
This is some proper trash.
This ain't no Hanako, tm.com.
That's the sort of thing I'm talking about, where they do these sort of cut-ins.
Oh yeah, that looks way worse.
Yeah, it's kind of crappy.
Yeah. Well, fuck that shit.
Don't watch that. It's really bad.
All right, well, here's one more thing you shouldn't watch.
Okay.
So, Soukou Musume Senki. I'm so glad that we decided to watch something else together rather than this. So,
okay.
Of course, it's the thing that looked the most magical girly. So I was like, okay, I'm legally obligated to check it out, even though they look like kind of shitty Sympho Gear mecha magical girls. And here's what I didn't realize: it's actually it's a tie-in to something called LBX, which is like a series of like little mecha fighting games for the 3DS. And so this is like, what if all those little mechas became horny lowly girls? And it's wow. So it's like, it starts with the main character hanging out in Tokyo, and they make a big deal about all the different lines in Tokyo and talking about them very specifically. And I was like, someone who was writing on this was like horny for the train lines in Tokyo and just really wanted to talk about them and be like, huh, you know what I'm talking about. Whoa. But apparently these LBX robot toys are just like so popular in their world. That's what everybody's into. And she buys one. She's like, I don't know. They all look the same to me. I'm not into it. But then, whoa. She gets sucked into worlds of battle and mystery. And and then she gets a sexy mecha suit. And yeah, they're all like, it looks like you can see their underwear because they got like the little leotards and the little booby armor, and it's dumb. And it's like, it's so hard to even talk about it because like she meets different girls, and one of them's the Genki one, and one of them's the Tsundere one. And they all have to fight with their super magical armor, and there's bad guys that look like generic monsters, and they gotta fight them.
So there's just nothing going on.
Yeah, I downloaded like 5 episodes of this, and after the first one, I was like, bye. Yeah, because there really is just like nothing to talk about. It's just like, look at these girls, look at them. They each have like transformations that last a full minute, I want to say. And it's just buy LBX, please. The horny girl compels you to buy the LBX. That's
a shame. That's all you got to say?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you more, but I don't want to because there's nothing to say.
So you wouldn't actually love to tell us more?
Yeah, so now you know. You didn't know, but now you know.
I can't remember if I put this up as for one of the ones that we could watch. But if I did, thank you very much to all of our Patreons for not making us watch Jobless Reincarnation.
Oh.
Because that was just one of what seemed like a pretty generic isekai that has turned out to be one of the more rotten isekais that's popped up in recent years.
Yeah.
To give you just one example from the show, the 34-year-old NEET is reincarnated into the world as a new baby. And as a baby, we hear this line from him, "Still, getting to suck on a hottie's tits for free rules." And there's a picture of a horny baby.
Anime is cancel.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Bye, anime, you're over.
So thank you for not making us watch that.
Yeah, I think that's one that, more people are talking about than some of these other ones that we watched, but we don't need to do that.
No, we don't need to talk about this. It's just
fuck a boy.
It's all the worst things you associate with isekai.
Yeah.
So yeah, just forget about it.
GTFO. But then, okay, so we've talked about everything else that is not the most important that we're probably going to talk about for forever, right?
Yeah, probably.
Hey guys, it's time to talk about Wonder Egg priority.
Yeah. So mixed feelings.
Yeah, I was telling Feen, I'm really glad we watched episode 4 before we recorded this, because episode 4 made me really come around in my feelings about it to a less positive place.
Yeah. I was starting to get those feels in episode 3, but episode 4 was the definite turning point to, not so sure about this anymore.
It's like, now I'm not going to be so measured in my reservations.
It was very I mean, again, we're only 4 episodes in. I think the both of us are going to keep watching it for now.
Yeah.
But man, we were real high on this at first. Because the first couple episodes are great.
Oh yeah, I think mainly the first episode it's one of those things. I want to give the first episode to someone else, like a writer that I really like, and be like, run with this. Make more of this in a way that's good.
Yeah. Because it's like the show started off very mysterious and had a really cool tone to it. So it's about this girl called Aikawa, or just Ai, who's very cute. Well, this one thing I will say about the show, the designs are pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's animated by Cloverworks, which also did that Horimiya.
Yes.
And they used to be A1, so they've definitely got the people who know how to make the good animations. And yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it does. And Ai's design is very charming. Yes. So she's a girl who's clearly quite depressed. She's not going to school. She's staying at home all day. I'm trying to think where to start with that little part of the story.
Yeah, it's funny because she buries that cicada that she finds dead, and then the cicada tells her to go buy a gachapon, and then she's in the magical world, and a lot of other things happen.
Yeah, through dreams, she enters this sort of magical world. She's given an egg by the cicada, who says, the first one's free. After this egg, you got to start paying for them. And she's like, what the fuck? And then she enters a magical world again.
No, wait. Well, the first time she enters the magical world, she's in what looks like a big empty school place, and I forget. Oh yeah, the monsters do show up, right? And then she breaks the eggie, and a girl comes out of it.
A roll of toilet paper forms a mouth and tells her to break the egg.
Break the eggie. Screaming
at her to break the egg, which she's been carrying around for a while, and it seems quite tough and hard to break.
Yeah.
But in the end, she drops it and it cracks, and it swells up and pops, and a girl pops out.
Yeah.
And this girl's looking around the bathroom going, oh, God, why did you bring me out here of all places? And they both seem to be aware that they're in a sort of odd magical world and are sort of talking a little bit past each other. But then these little monsters turn up with these little, they're called Xenos, I think, aren't they?
That's the English translation of what they're called, as in see no evil.
Yeah. And so it turns out they can injure this girl that's popped out of the egg, but they can't injure Ai. So they end up having to just run from them. And this is the funny thing. The first episode's hard to describe because it's just everything that happens in it is so mysterious.
Yeah, it's cool.
The conversation is strange. You can't quite make out what's going on. You're getting little flashbacks to a friend I had called Koito.
Yeah.
We find in the first episode that Koito's dead, don't we?
Yeah. So yeah, she's this girl. She's running away from the monsters with the girl, and yeah, apparently the monsters will only follow that other girl and won't attack Ai. And Ai, because she's scared, she lets them go and follow that other girl, and just kind of hides and is like, I'm sorry, I didn't help you, which I think is going to be her big. I mean, it seems like she's already gotten there. Her big character turnaround is to help people.
Yeah, that's the thing in this episode is that she's a very isolated person. And even before she made this friend Koito, she was very isolated. Because she has heterochromia, there's 2 different eye colors. And she was bullied about it. So she she's
very ashamed of her rad anime eyes.
Well, yeah, but she was bullied at school about it, so she's sort of a loner. But Koito, you see in these flashbacks, made an effort to sort of become her friend. But then Koito was being bullied by other students because she was a transfer student, and I didn't do as much as she could have to help, and in the end, Koito kills herself. And that all happened before the events of this episode started. So I was wrestling with that, that knowledge, and then when she sees this other girl who came out of the egg, being attacked by these monsters, she decides this time she wants to step in. And off the girl who came out of the egg, she got like a 4-color pen, and all of a sudden the 4-color pen like transforms into this huge like club weapon that has all these, the different colors coming off it and stuff, and it's fucking cool.
Yeah, it's got a great design.
Yeah, and there's a cool, but if brief fight. There's this like what looks like another schoolgirl who's leading all of this big mob of Xenos, whose face is all sort of like fuzzed out, and once she kills her, the other girl's safe. and the girl says, "I hope you'll remember me," and then just turns into dust and disappears.
Yeah. And then on the roof, there's that statue of her friend that died, who killed herself. And she ends up getting the impression that if she helps enough of these girls, her friend will maybe come back to life or something.
Yeah. She's sort of led down that path by the cicada. Now, this is the thing. Like I said, it's difficult to describe that first episode because it is very dreamlike and mysterious and strange. But it had such a nice tone.
Yeah, like it's very horror, very creepypasta, and so it has like this nice tone of like at first you're like, oh, this is very pop and colorful, but then like there's those creepy monsters and everything, and I'm like, oh, this is rad. Like I wasn't expecting this, but
based on the things that happen in the first few episodes, you start to sort of see like, okay, this is going to be a show about kids who are dealing with grief, like serious grief.
Yeah, like and probably pretty melodramatic, pretty heavy, but like in a not bad way.
Yeah, and you also start to see the fights and spending time. What's the other thing you find out is that all the girls who come out of eggs are girls that have killed themselves, and they will have a statue in someone else's dream somewhere.
Yeah.
So the way it works is you get the impression that the show is doing something quite sophisticated with a sort of metaphorical thing, where like through going through these fights and spending time with these girls, it's kind of like the experience of a person who's dealing with grief, reading the accounts of other people who've killed themselves, talking to other people who are going through the same grief as they did, and sort of coming to understand why the person killed themselves, coming to understand what happened. It's this sort of metaphorical going through the stages of grief and working your way through it.
Yeah, a lot to say about like guilt and closure and stuff.
Yeah, and so the first couple of episodes, I was like, oh man, this is like, they are doing something really sophisticated here. Like this is really interesting. And because like the other thing is that I meet other girls who buy eggs and are trying to get someone back as well. So it's sort of like you're going to have this group of girls who are all dealing with grief and are going to like work through that stuff together as friends. And like that, it felt very strong. But then...
And all that's still true.
Kinda. But... Yeah. It kind of took a turn because... Okay, so I can get into what I think in a minute. What do you think, Hugh, about the turn?
So at first I was like, okay, so it's a bit like gratuitously melodramatic and like it's a lot of really serious stuff, but I'm kind of down for that as long as they're treating it decently, and I could totally see being into this kind of story as a teen girl. But then the longer it went on, the more it's like every super extreme bullying trope that happens specifically in fictional media just is a thing here. Like it feels like it doesn't have any unique thing to say about bullying really, because her friend, like one of the big things that happen is like the other girls taking her clothes off or whatever, which is a thing that always happens in like super extreme bullying in media, much more so than what you'd think of as bullying in real life. And it's started to feel like, oh, you're not actually that thoughtful about this. You're just kind of doing teen girl get bullied, get abused tropes. Yeah, because like other kids are like writing die all over the girl's locker and like leaving lilies on her desk and doing all this sort of stuff. And then I mean, look, we'll find out, but I feel like at the moment there is a heavy implication that the girl was also being sexually abused by one of the teachers, the school counselor. At this point, my only hope is that they do treat it as she was being sexually abused by the teacher, because I feel like the other direction they might go in is that she and the teacher were just in a relationship, which is not okay, but I don't trust. It's one of those things where it's like, this is one of the things that made me think maybe this isn't as thoughtful as I thought it was, because it's almost like there's this idea that in order to justify a suicide, you have to make the conditions this person was in as extreme as possible. And that is
that's just not true of the way suicide works.
Yeah, so far none of the girls that killed themselves are just like, she just didn't really have any friends and she was really stressed out and then she killed herself. It has to be like, and then she had the worst possible day ever and everyone was really doing horrible things and she was being abused by everyone. And that's why she killed herself.
Yeah. It's almost like trying to turn suicide into like a rational act. Oh, this is the only way out. Whereas like, suicide is irrational. That's how it works.
Excuse me, they explained that girls do irrational suicide because they're so emotional and impressionable, and boys do rational suicide because they're much more goal-oriented.
Yeah, that's also a line from a couple of characters in like episode 4.
Girls be killing themselves like this, boys be killing themselves like this.
And two of these characters who like run the gachapon say it to our main girls, and they're just sort of like, yes, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, checks out.
So they bring in this supporting cast as we go, and where like in the first few episodes I experience of grief and stuff seemed quite interesting and like nicely drawn, these other girls are pretty tropey and a bit contrived. The first one you meet is Rika.
Oh wait, well first you meet Nehru.
Oh sorry, we meet Nehru, yeah. And at first she seems fine just because you don't know anything about her really. Apart from that she's hardcore.
Yeah, she seems interesting and kudere, and she looks like she's probably biracial or something. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but we don't really get to learn about her deal just yet, other than she has a sister she's trying to get back, and she goes way too hard. Like, she'll take 10 eggs at a time.
Wait, she does? I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was one of the things they pointed out, was that she doesn't do them all at once, but she takes on a lot of work. And that's why she gets injured more often. That's the other thing. It turns out you can also get injured.
I still don't understand how that works.
This is the thing. When you're hit in the dream world, it doesn't slow you down or stop you, but when you wake up, you have the injury.
But it doesn't seem to... It's not as bad as it would be, right? Because, like, she gets her fucking...
This is the thing. In the first episode, maybe first or second episode, it happens to Ai, and she gets really seriously injured and ends up in the hospital. But then after that, it doesn't seem to ever be an issue. Occasionally for Niru, but other than that, this is part of the weird tone shift, because... we'll get to the other characters first, and we'll talk about Ai. But so Rika, is the next idol. The person she's trying to bring back is this girl she keeps calling her wallet and keeps making fat jokes about her. And she's doing this whole thing where she's being like super heartless about the whole thing. But then as the episode goes on, you find out that she had this one fan who would show up to all of her, like handshake events and was giving her all the money she had. Like, she thought at first this girl was just wealthy. But it turns out the girl was like just giving her every cent she had and ended up like being caught for shoplifting and things. And Rika was worried about her. So the way she dealt with her and was trying to help her was by telling her to never come back and she thinks she's horrible and ugly and fat. And so this fan went away and killed herself. And it's just one of those things where it's like, to me, that just feels so contrived, because like, it's almost like the writers were trying to do this thing where they were trying to have it both ways with Rika, where they wanted to have a character who was more brash and kind of a bit like heartless.
Yeah, and actually like really fucked up as a bully thing.
Yeah. Like that's kind of what her story is, that she was a bully. She was someone who caused someone to kill themselves. But they still work in this thing of, oh, well, she was actually trying to do it for like a nice reason. But it's like, if you're a person who is worried about another person, like if you're the sort of person who thinks, oh, that person's giving away all their money, I don't want them to do that. If you're a person who has that compassion in you, the idea that you would try to solve it by doing something that cruel, I don't buy that, like, at all. It's very, the irony. Yeah. It just feels, so that character just feels kind of contrived, and I don't really buy her. And, like, then we learn that Niru is, like, the president of some company or something, so she's super rich girl.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then we get Momo, who, oh, man.
Momo is a lot in terms of, look, so here's the thing. So Momo is a girl who presents as a boy, and the implication so far is that she generally presents as a boy because she doesn't feel like she looks feminine enough, and she's just so tall and has broad shoulders, and so she was like, well, guess I'll just be a boy then, because that's and a lot of people think that it's funny because you have people that are like, oh, this is definitely a trans girl, and you have people that are like, oh, I think this is a trans boy narrative. But if you really look at like what they say and how it's framed, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not either of those.
Yeah, so this is the thing. She also pops up in episode 4, which, now the other thing about episode 4 is that we get a story with Momo and a girl she's protecting in a dream, and that story was just too much. Like, so This is one of the things that I was like, when I thought the show was good, I was still sort of a bit apprehensive about it because every episode was going to be spent with these girls who had killed themselves. And like, that's just rough. Like, that's really tough to deal with. But then in like episode 3, when we're dealing with Rika, the two girls that they're defending there, their suicide is almost treated like a dark joke. They're two idol fans who their idol killed themselves, so they killed themselves to follow the idol.
Yeah, which I was okay with.
I was okay with it because they, like I said, they played it like a joke. There was no angst there at all, almost.
Yeah.
All of the angst in that story was actually coming from Rika and I. So it was like, okay, well, I guess they're trying to twist away from that. But then the girl in episode 4 is a girl who, and this is treated in like totally serious, is a girl who was molested by her father's boss on the train over and over and over again. And then one day she got the guy in trouble, but then her father got sacked and her mother said, why couldn't you just put up with it? Clearly it's a compliment because he thinks you're pretty. So she killed herself. And then the monster they're fighting is this sort of monstrous amalgamation of the guy. And there's a bit where the girl, in order to help Momo, says, oh no, actually I want it. You can touch me. And the thing pulls their shirt off and it's too much.
It's just too fucking much. It's just too much.
It's too much. And it's also like this character is not, we're never going to see this character again. So at this point, it's starting to feel like it's reveling in the awful stories to the point of being too gratuitous. You know?
It's like there was almost something interesting there about like the way that your self-esteem can be affected by that kind of stuff, even if it's horrible. And if you were like really exploring that from like a girl's perspective, because obviously this is a guy writer, but it's not that. It's a girl going through all this horrible, getting groped stuff and throwing her shirt off and doing all this. Whoa, it's edgy, and it doesn't feel like it has anything thoughtful to say about it. It's just doing tropes.
Yeah. It's got nothing to say about this. It's just, here's a horrible story. Okay, bye.
And speaking of horrible tropes, so the very efficient, I think we have a pre-buried gay. You don't even have to, it's just already in that hole, buried for you, very convenient.
Yeah, the girl that Momo was trying to get back is a girl that confessed her love to Momo, knowing Momo was a girl, and Momo rejected her, so she threw herself in front of a train.
Yeah, because what happens is one of the girls that she's protecting falls for Momo, and Momo's like, I'm sorry, I tricked you, I'm a girl. Which I don't think that scene makes any sense if she's either a trans boy or trans girl.
No, this is the thing. I understand why people think that she's transcoded, because like they talk about her having broad shoulders, and they talk about her like sort of presenting kind of like a boy, but not that much. Like she's not, I don't know. I just think the simplest explanation for what this character is a girl who is self-conscious about the fact that she thinks she looks too masculine and sort of leans into it because she doesn't think she can pull off being feminine, but she actually really wants to be feminine.
Which is such an anime character thing. It's not a person thing.
Again, this is the thing. It's like with Rika and like what Neru's become. All of these supporting characters, like I said, are kind of contrived and a bit nothing. These don't feel like real people. These feel like anime characters.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so she's like that girl from Nozaki-kun that's like the prince that all the other girls fall for, but she's a girl, except it's serious.
Yeah, and this is the thing, where I was interesting and sort of seem to be having this something really serious going on. By episode 4, she's just pretty cheery all the time. And like at the end of this episode, she runs into Momo crying. And Momo's like, what do I look like to you? And I's like, you look like a pretty girl crying. And you're so pretty, you look like a model. Look at you. You know, you don't have an Adam's apple, blah, blah, blah. Like they make a big point of pointing that out.
Yeah, cool.
And then they talk about how much they love Adam's apples because they look tough. So like, yeah, I just comes along as like the Genki girl to make her feel good.
Yeah, she's already gone through her entire character arc in the first episode, it feels like. Except for, like, I guess coming to terms with what happened to her friend, which is presumably what she has to do.
Yeah, like even in episode 3, there was a bit where they sort of touched on... She sort of touched on something that she hadn't touched on before, which was the sort of the sense of resentment she felt towards her friend who killed herself. That like, we were friends, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me something was going on? Which that's a very real emotion. Like that's something that like people who were left behind really feel.
Yeah.
But like that, and that's what I always thought, like, this show's going to be kind of thoughtful, but at the same, like, the longer it goes on, the more it just feels like air is just slipping out of this thing.
Yeah, especially once it gets to whatever the fuck was going on between her friend and the teacher, because the teacher also seems to be fucking her mom now. He's
round to the mum's place all the time, and I obviously wants to avoid him at all costs and doesn't like him.
It's like, how bad is this gonna get? And based on everything that's happened so far. I bet pretty bad. Oh, but yeah, so the thing with Momo, and a lot of people, I even the first time I watched the episode, I was like, okay, at least Momo's gay, like at least she's some kind of LGBT. And then when I was rewatching the scenes, I was like, wait, okay, I don't think she is actually. Just her friend was, and then it made her like. So one of the girls she's protecting is like, I don't care if you are a girl, I still like you. And then she disappears into a puff of smoke. And Momo was very affected by that. And I thought it was because she was like doki doki, but now I think it's just because she reminded her of her friend. Because then she goes over to her friend's statue and she's like, see, there are other girls like you. Because other gay girls do exist.
Did you know lesbians are a thing? Oh man.
Yeah, I know you thought that you were the only one in this day and age when the internet exists, but it turns out there's other people that are gay too that exist.
Yeah.
And so it's like all the actual LGBT stuff is just her friend who is already dead, and she's just a fishy anime girl.
Yeah.
Is my impression.
Yeah, that's the impression I get too. I understand why people might have taken her as transcoded. I understand how you can see the signs, but I think unfortunately that's not what's happening here. I think it's just dumb.
No, it's like I've compared her to the character Itsuki from Heartcatch Precure, because it's a character that does happen in anime sometimes where it's like, oh, she feels like she has to present as this masculine girl for whatever reason, but she secretly really wants to embrace girly things and look like a girly girl, and oh, that's like her secret wish. Like that's a thing that exists in anime.
I was going to say, wasn't there a character in Subaru that touched on that?
Oh, the glasses girl a bit?
Yeah, when they were doing that play, and
Yeah.
she was going to be made to be the prince because she had short hair and glasses, and they were like, you could probably pull off looking like the boy the most. And she was sort of about that. But then in the end, she gets to play the princess, and she's really happy about it.
Yeah, because she was like, my role is to be the tomboy, but she secretly also wanted to be a girly girl because she has the heart of a girl.
I mean, and that's like, in that context, that's fine.
Yeah, it was just cute and not treated seriously.
Yeah. And I do feel like there probably are women who are like that, I'm not saying that's completely invalid emotion. It's just like this particular trope, this is a trope, this is a thing, this is an anime thing. And the other two supporting characters are both anime things as well. So I feel like...
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
And like just her taking it so far to be like, I guess I'll just dress as a boy and let people think I'm a boy because I guess I can't present as a girl because I'm just too fucking tall.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I don't think it's gonna be what people want it to be.
Yeah, I'd be surprised from this point if that's what's gonna happen. But yeah. It bums me out. I was real high in this show at first, and now it's just sort of...
Yeah, and it has rad visuals, it has rad music.
Yeah.
It has a lot going for it, a lot of good sakuga, but it's very much is a story about really serious girls' pain as written by obviously a guy.
Yeah. And to get a bit serious for a minute, there is something that does bug me about the way that anime like this try to be serious about suicide and bullying and stuff like that. It's like, I would really appreciate a show at this point that didn't overhype bullying. You know what I mean? That showed someone who wanted to kill themselves just because of like what seems like a very mild amount of bullying, because that's probably more the way suicide works. You know what I mean? Anime
bullies work so fucking hard. They are 9 to 5 bullying game.
Yeah. It's just really how bullying works. Like, it's generally milder and it's more in the person's head, and obviously there are people who get bullied really harshly and really publicly, and there's like it can be really violent and stuff. But like in anime, it is always like this. It is always incredibly over the top.
Yeah, it's annoying because like I was bullied as a young person,
Yeah, same.
It's like, so like a girl walking in the hallway and she trips you, and then I'm sobbing, and then I feel like nobody likes me, and then I'm like, they don't have to fucking put in 2 hours of preparation.
Yeah. No, it doesn't take that much. Like, it's just, that's part of what I appreciated in Otherside Picnic with Sararo's deal, was that it was kind of like her like deep funk and sort of like, vaguely suicidal tendencies didn't seem to be brought on by anything particular. That's just the way her mind worked. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't take much.
Yeah, like if I stole Wonder Egg Priority from the writer and made my own Wonder Egg Priority, one of the girls would definitely have a friend who died and she just has no fucking idea why. She like doesn't understand why she killed herself or what made her want to, because that's an actual real thing that you could explore.
Yeah, that's a thing that a lot of like the survivors of a suicide have to deal with. sometimes. It's just not knowing what the hell was going on. I'm not expecting it on any level. Like,
But no, it's all the most ridiculous, edgy nonsense.
yeah, feels bad. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, like again, I'll still watch it. I want to see where they're gonna go, and I bet like I'll still feel some feels by the end. And the character designs are rad, and there's a lot to like. But in terms of the writing, I just don't. It just ain't that deep, bro.
Yeah, it's also just that I really thought that I really was into what it was putting down at first. If it hadn't set itself so high up on with the first couple of eps.
Yeah, like it's already a kind of abandoned any of the horror stuff it had going on. Like the second episode, Monster, I guess, was kind of scary, but it was just so goofy because of her big titties gushing everywhere, which was a thing that happens.
Yeah,
and now it's just like silly pop fighting and drama, and it's just like whatever.
Yeah, because like the tone was so good and it was mysterious and shit. I was like, they did a good job. Anyway,
Too bad.
too bad.
Anime is over. No, I'm still gonna watch it. But yeah, that's everything we watched this taster.
Yeah, and as much as we ended on a slight bummer there, like I said, there was a lot of good stuff this season. Horimiya, Otherside Picnic, definitely worth watching. Sk8, worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch Otherside Picnic.
Yeah. The OP from Vlad Love, that's worth watching.
Yeah, only that. Obviously, you are legally obligated to watch X-Arm. Everyone has to watch X-Arm all the time. It's the most amazing thing ever, and you gotta watch it.
Watch at least one episode. You don't have to watch the whole thing. I don't know if I'm going to watch that much more Exam, to be honest.
Fair, but yeah, you have to experience it somewhat.
Yes.
And then I'm probably gonna watch more of Cells at Work Black, and obviously I will keep watching Wonder Egg for now.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, there's some shit.
Yeah, go watch some shit. Go watch some anime. At us on Twitter if you're watching something that's worth a look and that we didn't mention.
But if you fucking say that other like jobless reborn or whatever the fuck, I'll block you. I'll fucking block you.
All right. Have a good anime.
Have a nice anime.